Hi there. Hello, how are you? It's me. It's Marie. How's my fellow weirdos doing? You okay? You cool? Coping? Getting by. Getting by. You know. Today's video is another book tag, because when you don't have the money to buy new books and you're not really motivated to read anyway, and you know there's not going to be a huge amount of book reviews to do, what other kind of videos are there to do with books? I'm just getting, oh god, the whole start of this video is just me smooshing about in my chair. It's so unprofessional. Anyway, so today's book tag is called the Hindsight is 2020 reader tag. This was originally done by Erin Go Read, but I have seen it on the gorgeous Nakia's Hideaway. If you don't follow her, you should. She's got a really nice voice. You just like listen to her all day, and she's absolutely gorgeous. Just as a side note, in case that influences the type of booktube channels you follow. I mean, obviously it does. I'm kidding. Anyway, so I guess this is kind of looking back at who like you are as a person, and like your childhood, and what inspired you to like become a booktuber, and yeah, slouchy shoulders going on there. So yeah, you know, just a little bit about what inspires me, you know. So we're just gonna get into this here. I'll put Nakia's and Erin Go Read down below in case you want to check them out as well. Okay, so what were you like as an early and learning reader? I don't know how far back we're supposed to go with that. I was super into books when I was young. My mum read to us a lot and I was like obsessed. I remember when I was in the Brownies winning Alice in Wonderland and Alice Through the Looking Glass, and I read that little collection, like, so like I loved those books. So I loved reading. I was always like super into it. English was always my favorite subject, right from like the beginning of primary school, as soon as I learned to read, right the way through. I sort of stopped in university because the only books that I really had time to read were like scholastic books and academic books, which, you know, they're a bit dry. And then it kind of puts you off reading for a while, do you know what I mean? When you go through higher education, you're kind of like, it's like you've used all your brain power on your essay or whatever, and you're like, I don't want to read, you know, for fun. I'm having to read for school. But maybe if I'd done English or something, it would have been a bit different. Although I am one of those people who, if you make me read a book that I don't want to read, I'm not necessarily going to be overly enthused about it. You know, I'm probably better coming to it naturally. But anyway, so yeah, I mean, I loved it all the way through. My primary school had a book club thing. I don't know if they still do this. And this is maybe like maybe a Northern Irish thing or a British thing, I don't know. But there was like a book club thing, and you'd get like a little catalogue, and it would come home with you, and you would show your parents the catalogue, and you could get books for like cheaper because you were buying it kind of through the school rather than, you know, so you're kind of getting their like scholastic discount or whatever, or like because they're buying in mass or something, I don't know. But my mum always jokes and laughs and reminds me that even when I was really little, I was skipping through the books that were like targeting my age group and going straight for the books for like the much older children, usually relating things like crime and like things like that. And she said that she just remembers the day when I was like a tiny kid being like, I want this book on Jack the Ripper, and my mum being like, okay. My mum is so partially responsible for my like very macabre attitude to things, because she just let me read and watch whatever the hell I wanted. So I saw and read things that I should not have at ages that I was probably far too young to comprehend. So she's definitely responsible for the darkness inside me, at least partially. So yes, I was a bit insatiable for reading. I loved reading. I just loved books in general, and I carried on with English right to like A-level age, and did pretty damn well on my A-level, even if I do say so myself. So yeah, that's me as a reader. What book or book series really got you excited about reading as a kid? Alice in Wonderland would be one of the big influences. Those were a couple of my favorite books when I was a kid. I just find them so like magical, but simultaneously mental. like just mental. I always thought, even as a kid, things like the caterpillar smoking and the whole mushroom thing, like, yeah, the like references to drugs is yeah, it's right there. But I just find it so kind of like dreamlike, and I just love the whole concept of it, and of growing big and small, and you know, all these worlds with talking animals and stuff like that. And it did all that in a like non-patronizing way. I think that a lot of kids' books tend to be like, first of all, like so bloody like optimistic, like everything's brilliant, and then they're also like super like preachy about something, like there's a lesson behind everyone. And I'm guilty of buying those books for my kid because, first of all, I don't want her to turn into like a horrible brat, and you know, like the books that teach them that they shouldn't be stroppy and all that sort of stuff. I totally get it, because if it's going to help me stop her throwing a fit because I won't buy her a toy or whatever, you know. But I don't know, like none of those kind of books targeted at my age from like my era really like overly appealed to me most of the time. So I really loved Alice in Wonderland because to me it was like magical and enchanting, but it didn't have some big message behind it. It wasn't trying to like tell you, you know, how you're supposed to act or make sure you're a good little girl. I think it was just weird for the sake of being weird, and I dug that. I dug it, you know? So yeah, definitely that. Has there been a person in your life, real or fictional, who inspired you to be a reader? So yeah, as I said, my mum read to us a lot when we were kids, so I definitely have to put my mum in that category. She, you know, it was always like a tradition to read, for example, on Christmas Eve, we always read the same copy of The Night Before Christmas, and then The Jolly Postman. Has anyone else read The Jolly Postman? And there's like the Jolly Postman, and then there's like the Jolly Postman Christmas one. They're so cool. You can still get them because I got an edition for my kid, and she even thinks it's amazing. They have like the letters that the postman delivers, and you can open the envelope, and like there'll be little jigsaw puzzles or games or like little magazines and books, like tiny books for the gingerbread man and stuff. And it's just, it's brilliant. I love the Jolly Postman. So things like that were like, you know, always read to us, and we were always like, my mother taught us very sternly, like, whew, ooh, we would have gotten so much trouble if we had ever defiled or defaced our books or toys. That is just not something that was tolerated in my house. You showed your toys and your books, especially your books, respect. You do not write on them, you do not colour them, you do not rip the pages. You don't cut your Barbie's hair, you don't like stomp on or break your toys or anything like that. Like everything was treated with respect, you know. And I try to like get that into my daughter's head as well, because sometimes she can be quite rough with things, and it's not in a deliberate way. She's just, I guess, sometimes I think kids don't realise how to be delicate. They haven't learned that precise sort of level of delicacy required with certain objects or certain animals even, and you have to like be like, ah! So I'm like trying to ingrain that with her. I always tell her you have to treat your books with respect because they're so special. Then I would probably say my primary school, my teachers in my primary school, all of them, like reading was always such a big part of primary school life. And the Narnia series was a big one. That we reread the Narnia series the whole way through primary school. So by the time we'd finished primary school, we read pretty much the entire series. So Narnia would have a big place in my heart as well as Alice in Wonderland. But Narnia, I always thought, like, everybody was so nice, and it was a bit preachy, you know, whereas Alice in Wonderland's just like, hey, look, here's a cat that disappears. No reason. Here's a pig baby. No reason. I like that. I like that. It's kooky. At what point did you begin to identify as a reader? Well, I probably always did, to be honest. But like I said, I kind of like took a break when university, and then it lasted for several years after that, because then I got like, you know, my job, career, and you know, like adulting and all that sort of stuff. So I got really back into it a few years ago. I still have dry spells, unfortunately. Like at the moment, like reading is just hard for me. I just, concentration, motivation, all those things elude me completely at the moment. But, you know, I know that it's temporary, and I'm reading like a chapter at a time when I can and when I feel motivated to do so. And I know eventually I'll get a book and I'll read it in one go. That's just the way, you know, that's the way it works. You guys know what reading slumps are like. We'll get there. How has being a reader shaped your life and your worldview? Well, it's obviously, it shaped my education a lot, because it kind of, the type of books that I like to read, you know, English was always going to be a topic that I took quite far. And then with English and with books, there came the kind of psychological element behind them and behind the stories and the characters. So I always find psychology super interesting, which is what I did my degree in. And yeah, I think a love of reading is always going to shape the topics that you choose to study, and, you know, the enthusiasm you have for those topics. It's definitely shaped my view in the sense that I didn't like grow up. I think a lot. I don't know how to put this in a delicate way. YA. I'm not a YA fan, okay? I'm not a huge young adult fan. I think that they're very formulaic, and I think that they sometimes can push narratives that are pretty dangerous. And the concept of relationships that are borderline abusive, and that they can also give the impression to impressionable young people that like a relationship is your be all and end all, you know? I'm glad I didn't read those types of books when I was more younger and more impressionable. I tended to be drawn towards the classics, and romance in classic novels is rarely ideal. There are obviously novels where you have your like happy romances, you know, like Jane Austen has happy romances in her book, but I like the gothic lit, you know, I like my Jane Eyres and I like my Wuthering Heights, and you know, the people and the couples are flawed and their love is like, it runs deep and it's a huge part of the storyline, but it's not like, it doesn't give the impression that these characters would like wither and die if they didn't have the person they wanted. That might, you know, shape their, getting their love or not getting their love might shape who they become and who they are, but it's not the entire purpose of the book. You know, I feel like a lot of young adult books is like love story and the like whatever thing that's happening, like whatever dystopic trope or whatever's going on in the background is its background, and then the primary thing is this relationship. And it's just not. So I like tended to read more classic books, and then I think that sort of shaped the things that I had. Like, as you can see, I really like vintage books. I collect them. I love the way they look, but I still read classics whenever I can. I think that the language is beautiful, and I think there's a realism to them that doesn't feel forced for over dramatics. Does that make sense? Do you know what I mean? Like, I think when you're like a young teen, like what you're ingesting in terms of TV and books can have an influence on you. I'm not going to say it's going to turn you into like, you know, violent TV is going to make you violent. Like, I don't think that, but I just do think that, especially, you know, when you're younger and you're like dreaming of your relationships and boyfriends and girlfriends and whatever, I do think that some of the books targeting that particular age bracket can get those relationships a bit problematic. Let's just say that, okay? Let's leave it there. I'm not crapping all over YA. If you're into it, like, good for you. We're all into different things. The books I read involve, like, horrible horror and situations like that, and I totally get why other people wouldn't like that. You know, each to their own. It's just, yeah, like, I remember the Twilight thing, and I tried to read that, and I was like, what the hell is wrong with this girl? You know what I mean? Sorry. Okay. Anyway, It also, being a reader has definitely encouraged a love of writing, because I would read a book, and if I really liked the book, I would be like, oh my God, I want to write something like this. I want, like, you know, you would learn a new style of writing, you would learn a new style of language, and new words and phrases that you would like incorporate into your own vocabulary, and that you would like want to emulate in your writing and be inspired by. So yeah, definitely inspired me as a writer as well. I need to write more, but again, motivation. Motivation. Don't know what it means anymore. Finally, tag someone whose reading history you want to learn more about. I am going to tag Merce from Harpies in the Trees, because I always love her book tag videos. She's just really thorough and informative, and I would love to know more about her, because she's like my booktube sister. So yeah, that's my tag. Don't wear it out. I don't, sorry. So, sorry. Yeah, being normal as usual. So yeah, guys, you know, let me know down below, what were the books that like inspired you as a kid? What turned you into a reader? When did you identify as a reader? Like, answer some of the questions. I always love to get to know you guys a little bit more. If you think there's someone who would like to do this, let me know and I'll get in touch with them and like pass the tag on. Even though I didn't tag you, consider yourselves tagged. This is an open tag. I would love to know all of your histories. Put it down below. Let me know. Communicate. Subscribe. All that good stuff. And I'll see you later. Ta-ta for now.